Ephraim and some of the other 10 tribes were in Africa. You see here this page. What I'll do is I'll leave the link in the description box. It says Lost Tribes in Africa. It says this was put up November 24, 2017. The history of Uwaida, which is Judah, aka Judah, Judea, Judah, Waida. So if you take Waida and go to Google and put the word in, it will lead you to Africa, because you had Judah that set up forts. You had a fort called Fort Judah. And when you check out any ancient map after 70 AD, because the Lord had told the children of Israel that was in Israel and Jerusalem at that time, he spoke about the abomination that maketh desolate, spoken of in Daniel, which was the Roman Empire. He told them to flee into the mountains, so they fled. Some of them fled up into Europe. A lot of them fled into Africa. And the tribes that fled into Africa were not just the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi. They were the tribe of Ephraim, Gad, Manasseh. So it wasn't all of the 10 tribes that followed Jeroboam, because they knew that there was only one king. Now, in process of time, they became 2 kingdoms, and that's because of prophecy. Because the kingdom, the northern kingdom, had to come to the Americas first. Had to be taken down by the Assyrians before the kingdom of Judah was taken down by the Babylonians. And this is also in your secular history. So you had Ephraim, you had Manasseh, you had Gad, so you had a number of those tribes from the kingdom of Israel that followed Judah, and they went into Africa, so-called Africa, the land of Ham. Now I want to go right into the scriptures. This is 2 Chronicles 30, the 30th chapter. You can also read 2 Chronicles, the 15th chapter, will give you more insight. But I'm not going to make this a long video. Anyway, it says here in 2 Chronicles 30 verse 1, and Hezekiah, which was a king, I did some brief history on that. He was a king of Judah at that time. And Hezekiah was king long after Hoshea the king. That's spoken about in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, when the Assyrians took over the northern kingdom. Like I said, when you go into the history, you had tribes of the northern kingdom that stayed with Judah. And that explains why you had Ephraim, Gad, Manasseh, and the other tribes of the northern kingdom that were in Africa. You have so-called Africans saying that their line goes right back to the tribe of Ephraim. Because Fopi had made a video saying to the effect, a couple of videos, that IUIC teaches that Ephraim and some of the so-called, I call them Latin tribes, were in Africa. So that disproves the fact that they came to the Americas. No, that doesn't disprove anything, because you had some of them that stayed with Jeroboam, most of them, but you had a number of them that humbled themselves because they knew the king came from Judah and stayed with Judah. You have an account of the elder sister, prophetess, in the Anna in the New Testament, from the tribe of Asher. So now let's go back into the scripture. 2 Chronicles 30 verse 1. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Lord, power of Israel. So what time period was this? This was long after they left the kingdom. The northern kingdom had left excuse me, were taken down by the Assyrians, and then in process of time they sailed over to the Americas, because Hezekiah was born in 739 BC, and he had died in 687 BC. So when the Assyrians took down the kingdom of Israel, the northern kingdom, this man Hezekiah was a young man, a child, a young adult, and this was after when King Hezekiah died in 687 BC. We're talking about we're going back to 722 to 726 BC, when they were taken down by the Assyrians. So this was long after the northern kingdom had went to the Americas. During this particular Passover, the northern kingdom was already in the Americas. So let me read 2 Chronicles chapter 30 again, from the first verse. And Hezekiah sent and you should read the whole chapter. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. It says, and Hezekiah, which is the king of Judah at that time, sent to all Israel and Judah, showing you that you had people that were part of the kingdom, the northern kingdom that stayed in the Middle East, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh. How can King Hezekiah write letters to Ephraim and Manasseh if they were already on the other side of the world? Well, they were already on the other side of the world, because there was a split where you had, like I said in the beginning of the video, some of the kingdom of the north had stayed with Judah. It said that they should come to the house of Judah at Jerusalem to keep the Passover, unto the Lord, the Most High of Israel. So, folk, you should have did more studying. Let me jump down to the 10th verse. So the posts passed from city to city, and when you look up the word post, they didn't have YouTube back then. They didn't have cable, so they put up signs saying the Passover. You know, if you're an Israelite, you ought to partake of the Passover. And so the posts. Bear with me for a minute. I want to go a couple of verses above that. Let me go to the 6th verse. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, and according to the commandment of the king, saying, ye children of Israel. The reason why he said ye children of Israel, because you had the kingdom of Israel still over here. You had some of them, most of them, that went to the Americas, the other side of the world. Turn again unto the Lord, Most High of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remnant of you that are escaped out of the hand, important verse, 6th verse, that are escaped out of the hand of the kings of Assyria. So not all of the northern kingdom went to the Americas. Some of them stayed with Judah. This is the proof right here. 2 Chronicles 30 verse 6. A 7th verse. And be not ye like your fathers and like your brethren, which trespass against the Most High power of their fathers, who therefore gave them up to desolation, as ye see. Now be ye not stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourself unto Yahweh, and enter into his sanctuary, which he hath sanctified forever, and serve the Lord Yahweh, your power, your God, that the fierceness of his wrath may turn away from you. For if ye turn again unto Yahweh, he's talking to the remnant of the northern kingdom in the land of Israel long after the Assyrians took them over. He even mentioned the Assyrians in the 6th verse. Ninth verse. For if ye turn again unto Yahweh, your brethren and your children shall find compassion before them that lead them that led them captives, so that they shall come again unto this land. For Yahweh the Most High is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you if you return unto him. So the post passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, even unto Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. So you had some of the northern kingdom that wasn't with King Hezekiah's order to serve the Passover. 11th verse. Nevertheless, divers of Asher and Manasseh and of Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. So some of them came to Jerusalem for the Passover, and some of them didn't, but they were still in the Middle East. Remember, it said that they escaped from the Assyrians. In the 6th verse, it said that, it says, and he, I'm at the end of the 6th verse, and he will return to the remnant of you that are escaped out of the land of the kings of Assyria. So that confirms, as I said earlier in this video, that not all the kingdom of the northern kingdom went to the Americas. A lot of them stayed here in the Middle East, so-called Middle East. Um, 12th verse. Also in Judah, the hand of the Most High was to give them one heart to do the commandment of the king and of the princes by the word of the Lord. Thirteenth verse. And they assembled at Jerusalem much people to keep a feast, the feast of unleavened bread, in the 2nd month. Now we know the law about keeping the Passover on the 2nd month. You can go to that. I'm not going to go into that. That's a whole nother lesson. A very great congregation. Now that very great congregation was the kingdom of Judah, which consisted of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and then you had the kingdom of some of the northern kingdom keep the Passover with the kingdom of Judah. So if they were there after the fact that the Assyrians took down the northern kingdom, they had to be there when the Romans besieged Jerusalem. Anna is a proof of that. And see, back at the One West, they didn't teach that. They said all of the northern kingdom had went to the Americas. That's not true. I mean, I really don't have to keep reading because I hit the main point. But like I said, read the whole chapter. Now I'm going to jump down to the 18th verse. 2 Chronicles 30 verse 18. For a multitude of people, even many of Ephraim and Manasseh, Issachar and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, because you're supposed to cleanse yourself. If you go before a dead body, you can't keep the Passover. You know, if you're unclean, you're not to keep the Passover. If you lay with your woman, you're not to keep the Passover. So that's when you go back to the law, it says you can keep the Passover in the 2nd month. it says, yet did they eat the Passover otherwise than it was written, because they were unclean, they were not sanctified, and they kept the Passover anyway. But as we read down, King Hezekiah pardoned them. It's right in this verse, 18 verse. But Hezekiah, which is the king, prayed for them, saying, the good Lord Yahweh pardon everyone. And then the Most High pardoned them. The world that we're living in, you got brothers that saying you got to keep the law perfectly. It's humanly impossible to keep the law perfectly. Because when you go to your job, or you get on a train or a bus, or you put your hand on the railing, there definitely was a woman that put her hand on the railing or sat on the bus seat that was unclean, that was on a period. So guess what? You became defiled. So it's humanly impossible to keep the laws perfectly. That's why we say you keep the laws. Well, it says in Judges the 5th chapter, rehearse the righteous acts. Keep the laws to the best of your ability. Verse 2 Chronicles 30 verse 19. That prepareth his heart to seek the Most High, the Lord power of his fathers, though he be not cleansed according to the purification of the sanctuary. And the Lord hearkened to Hezekiah, and that show you that he pardoned him. 20th verse. And Yahweh hearkened to Hezekiah and healed the people. So the ones that were unclean, not sanctified, that kept the Passover, the Most High pardoned them. 21st verse. And the children of Israel that were present at Jerusalem kept the feast. And the Passover is one of the most important high holy days. All of them are important, but the most important is the Passover. Now this individual, which is the leader of the ISUPK, Yohana, that was a wicked thing that he did, not having the people keep the Passover. He just said we're not going to keep he just canceled the Passover. Since I've been in this truth, I have not missed one Passover. You get ready. You get ready in advance for the Passover months before it happens. You tell the Passover's on this date. Get yourself ready. Come not at your woman. If somebody in your family dies, you go before the dead body. 3 days before the Passover, you can't keep the Passover. It says, and the children of Israel that were present at Jerusalem kept the feast of unleavened bread, which is the Passover, bread 7 days with great gladness, and the Levites and the priests praised Yahweh day by day, singing with loud instruments unto the Lord. Didn't say nothing about shaking your booty. It says the Levites. It said the priest. And they were playing with instruments. They were praising the Most High. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say, you know what, is there more? Let me see. You know what, let me jump to the 24th verse. For Hezekiah, king of Judah, did give to the congregation 1,000 bullocks and 7,000 sheep. And the princes gave to the congregation 1,000 bullocks and 10,000 sheep. And a great number of priests sanctified themselves. And all the congregation of Judah with the priests and Levites and all the congregation that came out of Israel, and the strangers, which means what? The Israelites outside of Israel, outside of the land of Judah, that came out of the land of Israel and that dwell in Judah, rejoice. 26th verse. So there was great joy in Jerusalem, for since the time of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, there was not the like in Jerusalem. So this was a great Passover, because you had both the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel keeping the Passover together. Then the priests, the Levites, arose and blessed the people, and their voice was heard, and their prayer came up to his holy dwelling place, even unto heaven. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. It's on to the next one. Shalom.